But we're also doing work as a party. It's something many of our candidates, many of our local parties have done in a variety of different ways. And I wanted to share with you this year a couple of examples of that work. It's continuing right now, led by two of my parliamentary colleagues, Andrea Leadsom and Nick Dubois, who are going to tell you a little bit about what they're doing in their constituencies. So please welcome Andrea and Nick. Well, Andrea, let me start with you. You have set up 2 job clubs in your constituency. I know the party's done a lot of great work with job clubs over the years, and they seem to be becoming more and more a part of the infrastructure. So tell me about your 2 clubs, how they work, and about their successes.
Right, well, there's one in Brackley, one in Towcester, and they meet alternate weeks for 2 hours. And how we set it up was simply making a list of what sort of agencies might be able to provide work. So recruitment agencies, obviously Job Centre Plus. There are various other private organisations who all come in of their own time to try and support people back into work. But the other side of that is we also found a huge number of local businesses willing to come in to provide people with help writing CVs, to actually talk to them about a job in my industry, whatever it might be. And so we run it with an enormous number of volunteers.
And what kind of successes have you had?
Well, the greatest success for me is my friend Lee, who came into the very first launch of the Towcester Job Club. And he'd been out of work for a very long time because he'd fallen off a roof and he'd injured himself and he'd sort of got back problems and he'd never quite made it back into the workplace. And he'd reached the point where simply being on benefits was not going to ever pay him to work. And so he stayed with the Job Club for a very long time, actually became one of the volunteers, used to make the tea and coffee, and is now in full-time employment. That's absolutely fantastic story for me personally. But we think that between all of us, we've probably helped around 70 people over the 2 years since it's been running to get back into full-time or part-time work.
That's really good. Now, that's happening in a number of places around the country. Yours is, I think, a shining example of the job clubs the Conservatives have created. But we also have a pathfinder in our midst. Nick has started a new front in the support we're providing through the establishment of the first Jobs Fair in his constituency, which is now being replicated by others around the country. Tell us about the fair, Nick. How did it work?
Well, essentially, we really wanted to create a one-stop shop to make it easier for people to find work and actually benefit employers. So we brought together in a local leisure centre, which we got at no cost, over 45 organisations, including some national businesses, local businesses, the third sector, colleges, to actually get them involved, particularly for those who were looking immediately for jobs as well as for future prospects. And then with a lot of support from the media, which was very nice to have fully on board, who gave a front page promoting it, supported then by the excellent work of the Job Centre, who directed traffic to the event. We were able to bring people together. In fact, we were pretty surprised because I was hoping we'd get maybe 300 or 400 people. By the end of the day, we had at least 1,200. We ran out of forms for registration, so we can't even be certain of the numbers that came together. And I think whilst there was a little bit of scepticism from employers, we then received confirmation that people had been placed. And we weren't talking about one type of job. We even had 2 senior chemists find jobs there, and of course we actually found a variety of other jobs at different levels.
I mean, that's a great story. How did you find the employers took the whole event? Did you get plenty of support from employers?
Well, I pulled on some contacts that we developed over the years in the constituency whilst I'd been active in the constituency before being elected. But we actually then took an initiative to write to lots of them, knowing that wouldn't be enough. And then we just got on the phone and my team and I just bashed the phones and it went on from there.
Brilliant. So what would both your messages be to parliamentary colleagues, to local parties about what they can do?
I think it's easier than you think. You'll be impressed at the number of people wanting to help. Absolutely key is plenty of coffee and tea and biscuits and a place where people can sit and chat to each other and actually support each other.
And I think the evidence is what some of my other colleagues have done since, and I'm just delighted that they've beaten me on the numbers and they've beaten me on the support from the employers. So it's proven it works, and actually it really is appreciated. The best moment for me was when someone came up to me and said, you are the first person who's taken any interest to stop and talk to me, and that was just for less than a minute. So I think the whole culture and interest in people really pays dividends and remotivates people.
Brilliant. Andrea and Nick, great stories. Please keep up the good work. Many thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that really is Conservative social action in action.